Hello guys, I hope wherever you're watching us from, you're having a great time. This is AfriPost and welcome to today's video. Now, for many years, the history of what blacks and Africans have gone through has always been whitewashed. And much of the history that depicted the struggles and the challenges that Africans and even blacks within the United States and across the world have gone through were hidden. And this has led to a lot of people having misconceptions that are totally wrong when it comes to understanding who blacks are and how they came into existence. I came across this clip here that I want to play for you. It's about an Asian woman talking about Africans and slavery. And I want us to listen to her points clearly because for me, I think some of them are misdirected because there is a sense in which I think she lacks an understanding of how slavery affected Africans and even African Americans in United States. And one thing I like about this video is the fact that there are a lot of people who came out online on TikTok and talked about her points and described why she thought she's so much entitled to her points. So I'm going to play for you her clip, then the reactions that her video elicited, and then we will give our views at the end. Let's watch.
Hi, hello. This is going to be shocking for many of you to hear, but did you know that Black people are not the only race to have historically experienced slavery? I know this is shocking, but pretty much every civilization in the history of mankind, at some point their ancestry owned slaves. Because slavery was a worldwide human rights issue for a very, very long time, for many centuries. So it doesn't matter if you're white, black, Asian, Hispanic, whatever. Very likely at some point your ancestry down the line owned slaves. Doesn't make it right, but that was just the way of the world for a very, very long time. So all these comments like, you're not black, you can't speak about slavery. It doesn't matter what color your skin is. Slavery was a human rights issue across the world, across all races and all civilizations for a long time. And the United States was one of the first countries to abolish it very quickly and efficiently. So all the comments about being a non-black person, you can't speak about slavery, every single civilization has experienced slavery at some point. Black people are not the only race to have historically experienced slavery.
No dib, Sherlock. I mean, if you read your history books, you know that a lot of people were slaves. There was slavery, there was Jim Crow, there was segregation. There was so much stuff after slavery. So many laws placed, so many things done after slavery that affected black people. Like y'all, you can't be so dense that you think slavery is the only reason like black people are where we are. There's a multitude of things. The Ocoee massacre, the Tulsa massacre. There's so many things after slavery done to black people is the reason why we are at where we are today. We haven't even gotten our reparations. Oriental people got the Stop Asian Hate Crime bill. Literally the same year, all that stuff was going on. The same year. And we can't get no bill passed for us. And so people, again, Japanese, $1.2 billion bill. Japanese Americans all got $20,000 each for World War II. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. You can't.
Black people are not the only race to have historically experienced slavery.
Imagine justifying slavery. Hi, I'm Eileen and I summarize books. This time I'm summarizing A People's History of the United States. So yes, while there were slaves in other countries, even in Africa, they were more like indentured servants. And unlike slavery under white people, they had rights. They could marry, own property, and even become heirs to their master. And African slavery lacked two elements that made the U.S. the most cruel in history. One, the frenzy for limitless profit under capitalism, and two, the reduction of slaves to less than human status, with relentless clarity based on color, basically saying white is right and black is evil. Slavery started in the U.S. in 1619 and technically ended in 1865. The elites and plantation owners were making bank, and they often worked in politics, and they would not let their profits slip away like that. But how do we enslave without enslaving? Which brings me to my next book, The New Jim Crow. So while the US represents 4.2 of the world's population, we house 20% of the world's prisoners, and blacks are incarcerated 5 times more than whites. And as you can see by this date, this is an ongoing issue. So while it's not what you would consider traditional slavery, if we didn't send people to jail and pay them 10 cents an hour, these privatized prisons wouldn't make billions of dollars per year. Our systems and government would collapse. So what was it you were saying about the U.S. being the first to abolish slavery quickly and efficiently?
Black people are not the only race to have historically experienced slavery.
So many non-black people of color who just hate black people with a passion because they think that white people are going to see them as equal. It doesn't work. Every time I see people who are Asian, Native American, Hispanic, and they come here, and they're like, oh, but at least we're not black. And then white people treat them like absolute garbage. They're shocked. What did we do to everyone else? What did black people do? Please tell me a point in history that we just somehow went against everybody else and made their lives living hell. Tell me right now.
This is going to be shocking for many of you to hear, but did you know that black people are not the only race to have historically experienced slavery?
Y'all been laughing at her for like 5 minutes because I really understand what people mean when they say the lights is on but nobody is at home. Like, you can tell in her eyes, like, she really thinks she's right. So one, chill with the microaggressions because we're educated. We know about slavery and we know that the word stemmed from Slavic people, white folks. I usually don't like to bring these people up in my TikToks because it's like they're so poisoned in mind, under mind control, that they just don't get it. They're so slept. And you want to know why I like when people bring this up? It's because when other people were slaves, they were getting paid for it. They were getting freedom out of it. They were being punished. That's why they were slaves. I mean, for the most part, black people were chattel slaves. We were the only people that were born into slavery and died as slaves. And this may be a shocker, but slavery never ended. If we're being technical, it was just redefined. Institutional racism is real. Wow. Shocker. You see the microaggression there? Yeah, I don't like that. Bye, girl.
Black person, you can't speak about slavery. Every single civilization has experienced slavery at some point.
I'm going to tell you why that argument is complete horseshit. So if you don't know what this is in reference to, she made a video on like a podcast where she's like, abortion is worse than slavery. It's the worst thing that's ever happened on American soil. Pretty fucking stupid. And a lot of people, for good reason, were pretty not cool with it because they were like, hey dude, you can't talk about that because you're not black, right? And then she did the conservative party trick where she pulls the All Lives Matter card and goes, you know, like black people weren't the only slaves. You know, the whole argument that goes, other people have had to deal, which historically, yeah, black people aren't the only race that's been enslaved. But within the context of the conversation you were having, that's the only kind of slavery you were referencing. And if you want to argue that abortion is worse than all slavery, that's an even worse argument.
We're not the only race to have historically experienced slavery.
Whenever descendants of colonizers and slave owners discuss slavery, they always do it in willful ignorance. And you notice they never include the word chattel. Have white people ever been enslaved in history? Yes. Have white people ever been seen as chattel slavery? No. You didn't meet the qualifications. You couldn't get in the club. It was based on skin color. Africans and some indigenous people. But white people were never seen as property or animals in the way in which those of chattel slavery was. It's like at some point in time, you have to stop choosing stupidity. You have to want more for yourselves. The information is out there.
Now, that is such a great video for educational purposes because it evokes emotions that allow us to debate these topics soberly and have a better research to understand deeper insights that are hidden. So, for me, I think the reactions that have followed are also very robust, and most of them have done their research. Some have also just given their opinions, and I think they have all the right to talk about slavery in the manner they're talking about. Most of those who have given their opinions there are black, and therefore it is evident that they have gone through some challenges brought about by the history of slave trade and slavery, and also the history of discrimination and segregation within the United States. We know that blacks have gone through a lot of challenges, not only in the United States, but from the 17th century, 18th century, this question of slavery was the topic of discussion because it is written that most of the founding fathers of the United States were slave owners. And when they were slave owners, they used these slaves as source of cheap labor. Most of them were blacks who were much stronger and healthier, and they could work in these farms easily. But then you realize that that has formed the foundation of what United States is as today. Because if the founding fathers believed in slavery, it is only evident that the institutions they built supported them against the slaves that they were having. And therefore, it is evident that the systems that would be formed in that government would only favor the slave owners and not the slaves. And that is why people like Martin Luther King Jr. came up and talked about the civil rights movement, where they were talking about the need for blacks within the United States to also be integrated within the society so that the positive things they are doing can really be appreciated and that they can also be respected as other human beings. We've seen the challenges of vote that African Americans were facing and the challenges that arose from segregation. So these are some of the things that are very critical when you are talking about the question of slavery. We know that this is something that has been in the past, but you realize that most of white people who come up and evoke these kind of debates are not really well informed on what slavery was and how it affected blacks as they are. We have seen those reactions, and I think I'm very happy with what those guys have said there, because they have highlighted the fact that slave owners have felt more entitled and descendants of slave owners have felt like they are much better placed to talk about slavery and how it affected people than those who are in fact the victims of the entire activity. This is a very, very robust topic that I think we should do a deeper research to understand some hidden secrets that have been there, but the system do not want us to know. I don't know what you think about this, but if you're watching us for the first time, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, like this video, and also share. Also remember to give us your opinion down in the comment section so that we may also understand your perspective about this important topic. Thank you, and may the good Lord bless you. Goodbye.